Hello, hello, hello. Happy PCE Friday. How is everyone doing today? Good morning, Ro. Ro, you're making it in first. This is becoming a habit. Hey, Patrick, good morning. Happy Friday to you. Hey, Heinrich, good morning. Good morning, Sterling. Sterling, what's up with this fourth in? What's up with that? We had the PCE numbers. We'll go through them in a second. Easy money this morning. Harmonics was perfect. Use a half S. Well, I'm glad you had a money morning, Eric. Be careful when you say easy money. But I'm glad you're applying some of the techniques and some things are working out for you. That's the whole point of this. Good morning, John. Good morning, Legion Reaver. Hello, Charles. Yeah, this is that. Don't even get me started with this. Or do we? And then what's the words out of? We're trying to accelerate Ukraine into NATO. All right. But do we want full blown World War III? Is that where everything's headed? Batten down the hatches. We're going to World War III because that's sure the way it seems. I mean, I think we're already in it, but a more confrontational World War III. Good morning, Kalani. I say hello, Charles. Legion Reaver. You get some people get hellos twice. Good morning, Legion Reaver. So let's see. Oh, that's gonna help inflation. What a waste of money. 9.8 trillion yen on FX intervention on the past month, and look how well it's been doing. All right, let's just see the PCE numbers. That they weren't. The market was already oversold. After, especially take a look at the Dow after a multi-day sell-off. The bounce is not so surprising to me. The numbers roughly in line. People celebrating, zero point 0.2 versus zero point 0.3. Well, the number came in 0.249. So because it's above, if it's 2.5 or above, it's rounded up. If it's 2.49, it's rounded down. So make of it what you will. But the numbers were roughly in line. Don't need to dwell on them. It's not going to change the Fed's trajectory. This one print being so close, it's not like it came in at 1. Going to be interesting to see where the Chicago PMI prints. By the way, number that wasn't highlighted on the other thing, but I'm watching is real personal consumption month over month. Prior was 0.4 from March. Look at what April printed, minus 0.1. Personal consumption, if this becomes a trend, is going to fall off a cliff. Personal spending, 0.2 down from 0.3 and down from 0.7. Personal income, 0.3 versus 0.5. So things are going to keep squeezing the consumer. Pay attention to that too. If inflation stays sticky, it doesn't have to go necessarily back to 7-8%. But what if it tops out between this 3 and 4% and stays sticky? That's gonna get to the interesting territory as layoffs come. All right, we got the rig counts this afternoon, and then this evening, if anybody cares, by 6:15 Eastern this evening, Bostic speaking. The map, again, pretty celebratory. Nvidia after the decent sell-off yesterday, it was down close to 3.75%. A little snapback today. I'm really watching to see if any of this snapback follows through the open, besides just the gut reaction, because I don't think this really does anything to change the trajectory. Let's just refresh this. Again, coming out of oversold on a lot of things. Look, everything's up. Everything's up. So I think this is more of an oversold bounce than anything. We just still have to trade the patterns. You have to trade your setups. Doesn't really matter what you think. I'm just trying to provide some commentary. Financial energy and technology leading. Fed watch tool. I'll revise it once more. Stick with me for one more second. Still barely favoring the rate pause. I would be shocked, though, if they cut in September. Still based off this data. They'd have to really see PCE falling off or unemployment starting to skyrocket before September cut would be in play. Fear and greed. almost back to that fear mode, right at that neutral borderline. Today, there was nothing yet. Dell got shellacked yesterday afternoon. Costco is still a beat, but Costco's PE is, geez, I would not be chasing Costco at this point. All right, there was not really anything today. Today was all PE focused. So let's see who else is in here. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Roll Palms. Not political at all. Let's go, Brandon. Judge has said Donald Trump sentencing, July 11th. Yep. Well, what do we have to say about Trump now? According, I tweeted this out. According to Illinois, he is a justice impacted individual. You can't call him a criminal. You gotta call him a justice impact. Hey, I'm just following what Illinois legislature passed. You gotta call him a justice. So all these people saying he's a criminal now, he's a justice impacted individual. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. I'm just saying. That's not political in any ways. I'm just following the rules. Justice impacted individual. Good morning, Martinez. We'll have a Republic. What do you think? Is it looking even before this like we can keep it? Grand Rising, Christoph. Haven't seen you in a while. Maybe you've been here, but in the background. But thank you for tuning in. All right, since we're on a justice impacted individual. Oh, you see, you can't. If you pass silly laws, you play silly games. Let's just see. Snapback rally coming into very, very key resistance this morning. So that's the only thing I'm really keeping an eye on is this 52.72 area. In order for me to even be bullish today, it's got to break above that after the open and sustain above that. This is more of a snapback rally right now. You did, if you were looking, this came right down to the harmonic and then reversed on the short-term reversal. On the short term, you see it right there. So that level was 52.30.75 and the low was 52.30.75. So does this still technically qualify as a double bottom? Yes, it did. As long as it does not surpass the 25 harmonic, it does. And depending on which side, it was the safer, and the way to structure the trade was safer to take the left side harmonics, and it went through. But if you did take the right side, you still, either way. Why would I have taken the left side? Because again, snapback against the rotation zones into that 4-hour rotation zone. Now we've had some waning. We also had waning divergences coming right down here. Waning divergences. Upper end of the 4-hour rotation zone. If we do keep moving on up through that 52.72 area, my next target area is 52.82 to 52.85. Then above that, I'm watching for the hooking over area, but the next major target that still would be the 50% retracement of the sell-off would be 52.99, which would take us into the major rollover zone next week. There's some pretty heavy lifting right around this 52.82 to 52.85 level. That's pretty key resistance. Now, daily cycles at the bottom. Weekly cycles are still at the top and trying to roll over. And look at, we reconnected with the rotation zone and trying to get a bounce. So not surprised to see a bounce here. Would not be surprised to see possibly some follow through next week. I'm really curious to see if we follow through after the open today, or it was just a reaction to those numbers that were roughly in line from oversold conditions. But if we do bounce for going into next week, I'm really going to pay attention to the 50 to 62% harmonic for another rollover play. NASDAQ Remember, it triggered the double, lower probability double against the rotation zone. We're getting a little snap back there. The really key area to watch in the NASDAQ is, oh, I got to fix something here. Where's that other, there we go. There we go. Sorry about that. The really key area in the NASDAQ to this morning is this 18,670. If it starts running above there, I'm targeting 18,732 and then 18,794. So, in order to really get something going from the whole sell-off from the highs, going into next week, we have to close above 18,821. I didn't go through my downside targets because, again, sorry. Downside, the very major support should we roll over is this 5250 in the S&P and in the NASDAQ, bumping this down just a hair. It's coming in at 18,560, 18,561 area. The Dow, this is the easier one to see. Very weak reaction so far. Yes, we do have some possible percent beat buys for setups. For example, the Dow, it would have to follow through with a close above yesterday's high. So I'm paying attention to yesterday's high key area, which so far this is a very weak bounce. Now you see, oversold, cycles at the bottom. Bounce mode to me, the primary target for me would be 38,524, the primary first target. Good morning, Anissa. I lurk some days. Well, that's just fine. Well, thank you for either lurking and still watching. Looks like the DXY will trigger the daily head and shoulders. We'll take a look at the dollar index. It's still in a channel for me. We'll take a look at it. I also want to see how the dollar index closes today. Let's see, the Russell little key major area is roughly about this 2079 to 2082 is key resistance. If we're looking at the little pullback harmonics, let me do this real quick. If we're looking for the retracement harmonics, if the Russell does keep running, it would, yeah, 2082 is the 50%, and then 2095 is roughly the level you need to close beyond to shift the probabilities to retest the highs from mid-May. Other than that, you have pretty decent support right around this 2050 level. The VIX, after the PCE number collapsing back down, with cycles at the top, so not surprising, but going to be watching to see if we can put in a larger bottoming formation in the VIX and then possibly trigger it. The DAX still trying to base down here after triggering the lopsided weak channeling double, but any major bounce target for the DAX, the first one is about 18,650, then 18,720 is very, very key. By the way, those don't take the double off the table. The notes, a bounce back to the key prior support becoming resistance area with cycles at the bottom turning up, coming out of oversold condition. So, by the way, this is an area between the candle bodies and the wicks. Here's the area I'm watching for resistance is 108.15 to 108.21. The only thing that makes me sit up and take notice is really a close above 108.22. The 10-year, coming back down to the breakout level. So going to be watching this closely. Now cycles are rolling over, so going to be watching to see if this support holds or not. But there's not a lot of yield plays setting up today. Boss, where are you? Boss GG, you said there's a head and shoulder. If you got to put it in the time frame, because if you're trying to look at shoulder, head, shoulder for this, the trigger point would be down at about 103.76, but would it qualify? See, that's what you got to ask yourself. Would it qualify? And from my rules, no, it would not. May qualify from your rules. I mean, you could go, well, this started it. This would be the weak area. So instead of that, if you're trying to play a breakdown play on this, on the dollar index, because it's against very major support, let me get my magnets back on. I would rather not try to force a head and shoulders and really be watching this 103.50 area. You close below 103.50, that shifts the targets to 102.98, then 102.47 or 40.50. And you can see that could take it back to the mid-March lows. But for me, it would have to close below 103.50. 52 to be exact, but 103.50. Crude, no close below the 62.5 yesterday. Seeing if it still holds the support. The key level for me is the 77.83. Close below 77.83. We'll be watching still in the bigger process to be putting in a bottom around this 200, a significant bottom. If it holds here, going to be watching for possible long setup going into next week, but not much today. Gold coming up, hitting the first target on the little shorter term sloppy double. First target hit, next target's up, and this is just a bounce move so far. It's really needed to sustain and get some momentum going. Need it to sustain and get some momentum going from my perspective, because in order for it to really get moving on here, we have to sustain this, get through to double targets, and follow through with a close above 2004.06. Minor reaction to the PCE numbers, but not much. What else? We have copper coming down yesterday, hitting the first target on the double, and pausing so far right there. What else? We had sterling post earlier. We had the reversal in the yield of the yen yesterday. I updated the harmonics now. Well, let's see which one was off. There we go. There we go. So if we resumed, we have a target. We have a prior significant area in terms of price action, and the next target would be 1.18. Yen, fairly quiet. We again saw Sterling, what he posted in with their Yentervention, bringing it back, and still recovering a lot of that. But still watching for this to retest higher prices. Euro, the double is officially over based off the PCE. Did not even get to the first target, but only back to the rollover zone. So that was a stop out from that without hitting the first target, which is fairly rare. Oops. Here we go. We got the spiders again, watching for the bounce. The key levels closing right at the harmonic yesterday. The key bounce levels for me, 524.35 is where we're trading right now. Going to be watching yesterday's open. Should we continue to rally? 524.52. Then we have Wednesday's open. 525.68. And those are both the targets before the full gap fill. Then I'd use 526.10. The major target, should we sustain a bounce going into next week, is 527.20. The Qs. after triggering this weird sort of this snapback double. Oops, wrong one. Snapback double. Looking to open around 452.35 area, 452.80, and then we got about 454.10 to the opening price. Hold on, and then to 454.10, and then really it would be 455.40. What else do we need to look at? Bitcoin, not doing a whole bunch of anything. Not doing a whole bunch of anything. Setting up the favorite, that was sarcastic by the way, favorite triangle pattern. But it already completed the 87.5, so it completed the snapback little into weekly and monthly double top territory, but that's nowhere near triggering just yet. Tesla, nothing to even talk about here. Nvidia, you had the sell-off yesterday and the snapback. This is a great area, still holding key support. But if you're looking for short-term targets, the first thing I'd use is the harmonics on the single candle harmonics from yesterday. So what you're watching is for a close above 113.506. That would shift the probabilities to retest the high area. Then, if you're looking for the minor levels, and this is more for the day traders or the short-term option, very short-term option traders, the next key target would be 73.50, so 1175. Hey, Mitko. Great to hear dog in background. Yeah, Smokey's outside patrolling the property. Why do I use USJPY and not 6E? Because you can still trade the futures, but I like to use the cash. The cash tends to give better signals. Okay? So I like to use the cash, and then, I mean, if you had to, and I would even trade the 6Es, I'd trade the minis at least, but you can easily trade the futures. I just prefer to watch the cash because the signals have tested out a little better. That's why. And remember the inverse. Remember the inverse. All right, going into the open. Going into the open. Looks like we're channeling. Little, there we go. Little channel so far. So again, that 52.72 area, 52.72.50 is very key with a sustained move above that. On any pullback, you're going into a single candle area. If we're going to do the harmonics, and this is for short-term traders only, if you're going to do the harmonics, back near the breakout area is the 50%. So, you know, you're looking at about 52.51 to about 52.50 as the major support. If we start breaking down through the channel into the open, your minor support halfway through the single candle is about 52.56 area, 52.57. This is why I said I'm watching for this to sustain into the open, into the cash open, other than just the gut reaction snapback. All right. It's got to sustain something. Otherwise, there's still broad market weakness because we're in oversold, nearly oversold conditions. We got cycles nearly to the bottom, at least on the S&P. So it's going to be interesting. We went to neutral mode on the daily with the close. So we're starting to chip away at the short-term bullish principles. If you need to know, we'll take it back to bullish mode. We'd have to get above this 53.18 on a closing basis. iPath. What is that? What you want? Can you look at it long term? You meant 6J? Yeah, it's a yen. I must have misread it too. We'll look at some of this other stuff next week. Let me just peek at the open. Let me peek at the tick. Yeah, you can trade. It's again, same thing I said. 6E is a euro, 6J is a yen. They're the futures contracts traded on the CME. I prefer, again, cash. For FX, I prefer looking at cash. You can still trade the futures. Pretty strong opening in the tick. Pretty strong opening. So it's going to be interesting to see if this can sustain something. Because in the short term, I have to get it above 52.65 is the first sign that I'll be watching for that 52.72 area. But strong tick. If that starts rolling over and we start really breaking this 52.56 area, I'm watching for the possible return to the breakout area. Path. You want path? Oh, there we go. UI path. From the longer term, you see how often I look at that. Well, they got slaughtered on earnings. That is one ugly chart. Whew. Oh, geez. Sorry, I'm just looking right here. Ugh. I mean, you are against a significant bottom area. So they still have no earnings. Wow. If it doesn't hold here, I'd watch out. But if it does hold here, the key target would be about $15 on any bounce play. $15. There's nothing just yet. There's no bottoming formation formed. Remember, this can slightly grind up to move sideways and let some of these rotation zones catch up, but there's no significant bottom formed yet. What else do we have? I wanted to see where Costco opened. No real reaction to earnings. It's going to be interesting. Costco, keep an eye on this. If you are long Costco, we got a massive divergence, waning momentum, weekly cycles at the top. Earnings are out of the way. So I'd know where your stop is longer term. The worst case stop is right around the 700. That would be my worst case stop. Worst case stop from a longer term trailing perspective. Okay, with that, one more peek in at the S&P. See, it's already given up the. Look, we're getting the NASDAQ. Look at this. The NASDAQ, this is what I wanted to. Well, from the bullish case, if you were bullish, would not want to see, because we had the breakout. Look at where the 50% harmonic is coming right back down. I'm just going to update this in the short term. You see this resistance, support, 50% harmonic. And this is completely reversing the PCE number breakout so far. By the way, if this closes below 18,550, not good in the short term. S&P holding up a little better, but this would need to get in a bullish mode today, would need to get some serious traction on or some momentum bars, because it's already retracing a bunch of the move. And the Dow, the Dow's getting some bounce back right there. The Dow's getting some bounce back, so keep an eye. If the Dow can sustain above this 38,300, that might be the, if you're looking for a bullish play, that could be it. At least looking at this 38.5 level, if it can sustain something. With that, I will call it a day. Nvidia, see Nvidia. Look at that, not able to sustain. Not able to sustain a gap up. So selling pressure still coming in. This is a day we could turn into a choppy day. Would not, unless we start getting some momentum bars and we start really sustaining some tick, I will not be overly bullish. You have a good weekend, Patrick. Everyone else have a great weekend, and I shall see you all back on Monday. Bye for now.